You know, as parents, we pour so much energy into our kids' education, their future careers, all the important stuff. But today, we're going to dig into a much deeper question, one that goes way beyond the report cards and job titles to what really, truly lasts. So let's think about it. After all the homework is done, the exams are passed, and the graduation caps are thrown, what's actually left? What do they take with them? And then what about later? After they've climbed the career ladder, gotten the promotions, and the job titles start to feel, well, less important. What are they really holding on to then? And here it is. This is the big one. After you're gone, what piece of your family story, what part of your values will they actually choose to keep alive? This is exactly what we're talking about when we say legacy. It's got nothing to do with money in the bank or what your last name is. It's all about character. It's about how they treat people, what they do when they have power, and how they pick themselves up when they get knocked down. Every single generation has a choice. They either make that legacy stronger or they let it fade away. Let me tell you about a guy named Shankar. I mean, on paper, he was a huge success, but he was pretty disconnected from his family's culture. And then, when his parents passed away, it hit him like a ton of bricks. All those traditions, the stories, the little rituals, they were just gone. His words are such a powerful warning for all of us. You don't realize how much legacy matters until it's not there anymore. So how does this whole legacy thing get passed down anyway? Well, let's look at two really common ways this happens. The first one we'll call the path of inheritance. This is all about deep roots, tradition, and keeping things going. You see this a lot in educational systems that really focus on cultural heritage. Now, this path has a real tension at its core. On the one hand, it's amazing. It gives kids a powerful sense of belonging, of stability. But, and this is a big but, when that tradition is just forced on them, when it's never questioned or explained, it becomes super fragile. And you see it in the day-to-day stuff, right? It's passed on through the language you speak at home, the holidays you celebrate, the stories you tell about grandma and grandpa, and that deep-seated respect for elders. All of these things weave together to create a really strong identity. But here's where it can go wrong. When you just enforce these things without any real meaning behind them, kids get smart. They learn to play the part on the outside, but on the inside, they've totally checked out. And then, the minute they get a little freedom, poof, they abandon it all. Because a legacy that doesn't feel like it's theirs, well, it just doesn't last. This really shines a light on a classic parenting mistake. Using the phrase, "this is our culture," like it's a command, that just builds walls. It creates resistance. You just can't force a legacy on someone. It has to feel like an invitation to join something special, not an order you have to follow. Okay, so let's look at the other side of the coin. The second path is the path of individuality. This is an approach you see a lot in more global-minded education, and it's all about self-discovery and personal choice, way more than family history. And again, you see this tension. The huge strength here is that kids learn to be independent, open-minded, and confident in their own choices. Awesome, right? But the risk is that they can end up feeling disconnected, like their identity is a little thin. And that can actually be pretty lonely. This whole identity is built around this incredibly powerful idea, I choose who I am. It prioritizes being a citizen of the world over just being part of one family tree. And while that's fantastic for building confidence, it can sometimes weaken the thread of a family story over time. And that brings us to this idea of cultural thinness. It's that feeling of not having deep family stories to draw on, of not really feeling connected to the struggles and triumphs of the people who came before you. Individuality is great, but without some sense of continuity, it can leave a pretty big hole where that feeling of belonging is supposed to be. So the mistake parents make on this path is the total opposite of the first one. They're so afraid of being pushy or controlling that they just don't talk about family history at all. But here's the thing. Silence doesn't create freedom. It creates a vacuum. Silence erases memory. Okay, so if both paths have these big risks, what are we supposed to do? The solution is to build a living legacy. Think of it like a bridge. It connects the strength of having deep roots with the freedom of having wings to fly. It's about getting the best of both worlds. And this framework gives us a map. It's all about making small but powerful shifts in how we think about this stuff, moving from giving instructions to telling stories, focusing on the values behind the rituals, not just the rituals themselves. And maybe the most important part, giving our kids a real choice, inviting them to decide for themselves what parts of the story they want to carry forward. And that brings us to probably the biggest mindset shift of all. We tend to think of legacy as this old, dusty thing that's locked away in the past. But that's not it. Not at all. A real legacy is alive. It's dynamic. It's all about the future. It's about figuring out what is strong enough, what is meaningful enough, and what is flexible enough to actually survive and be carried into the future with purpose. So the goal is a little different for every kid, depending on their starting point. For a child who grew up with really strong traditions, the journey is about moving from just passively inheriting them to consciously owning them. For the kid who was raised to be a global citizen, the journey is about connecting that awesome individuality back to a bigger story of continuity. So in the end, everything you're doing right now is shaping a story. And one day, your child is going to be the one telling that story, explaining your family to their kids. And the real question is, what story are they going to tell?